The Secrets of Doctor Who is brought to you by the Star Quest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give. You're listening to The Secrets of Doctor Who, where we discuss everything about the hit BBC series Doctor Who. And today we have a special April 1st edition of the Secrets of Doctor Who, in which we're going to discuss The Curse of the Fatal Death. The Curse of Fatal Death. I'm Tom Bettinelli, and joining me today on the panel are Jimmy Akin. Hi, Jimmy.
Howdy, Dom.
And Father Cory Sticha. Hi, Father Cory.
How's it going, Dom?
Very good. Folks, I want to tell you first, we have merch. You can get your very own Secrets of Doctor Who t-shirt, phone case, mug, and more at sqpn.com/merch, M-E-R-C-H. Go check it out. Tell us what you think of the design. And I want to tell you about another show on the network you're sure to enjoy called The Secrets of Star Trek, which you can find at sqpn.com/trek. So, yes, this is a very special extra episode, bonus episode we're sending you because it's April 1st, and we said, why not do a special discussion of The Curse of Fatal Death? And now you may not, which Doctor is that? Well, it's sort of the 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th Doctor, but not really.
And 13th.
I think, yeah, I was going to say, I was trying to count that up quickly in my head. This was a special 20-minute long episode from the comic relief charity that they do every year in the UK in 1999 for something called Red Nose Day, and it's so that's lots of comedic actors and comedians and people who work in the industry get together and they create these very fun special stories of various kinds that they use to raise money.
Yeah, originally this was two 10-minute parts.
Yeah.
But they fused it together into one on YouTube.
Right. And it was written by Stephen Moffat, which makes it his very first televised Doctor Who script, which is kind of cool.
And it's also very timey-wimey, which you would expect from Stephen Moffat.
Yeah, he had a lot of fun with the time travel stuff in this.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So let's start by getting a recap of what goes on, the craziness. So, Jimmy, can you give us a recap?
The Doctor summons the Master to a castle on the planet Tercerus to tell him important news. The news is that the Doctor thinks he's saved the universe enough and plans to retire and marry his companion, Emma. Comedy time travel hijinks ensue as the Master and the Doctor have repeatedly used their TARDISes to bribe the architect of the castle where they're meeting, either having him create traps or create ways to get out of them. The Master repeatedly falls into a sewer system that takes him 312 years to crawl out of, only to use his TARDIS to reappear moments later. He also brings the Daleks with him because the Daleks have no noses, and they're the only enemies of the Doctor willing to be around him after centuries in a sewer. The Doctor and Emma are captured by the Daleks, and the Master reveals that he's given the Daleks a Zectronic energy beam that will allow them to conquer the universe in a matter of minutes. After the Doctor warns the Master that the Daleks are planning to kill him, the Daleks initiate a firefight, and Rowan Atkinson's 9th Doctor is fatally dead. The Master also reveals that the Zectronic energy device has been damaged and soon will both explode and implode, killing them all. Fortunately, the Doctor has the knowledge to save them, but a series of accidents result in him quickly running through his 10th, 11th, and 12th incarnations, each played by different actors. Ultimately, the Doctor is able to repair the energy device, saving them all, but he gets hit by a beam of Zectronic energy that should end his ability to regenerate, and he dies. Humbled by this sacrifice, the Master and the Daleks decide to become good. And just as it looks like the Doctor's life is finally ended, a miraculous regeneration occurs, and the 13th Doctor turns out to be a blonde woman played by Joanna Lumley. Emma firmly tells the new Doctor that the wedding is off now that she's a woman, but the new Doctor finds the Master rather more attractive than she did before, and the two stroll off arm in arm. The end.
So yes, and we'll get into the some of the funny bits as the funnier even bits. As we go
I
along.
tried to leave that for you guys, so I didn't try to spoil all the funny stuff in the intro.
Yes, there's lots more. And I should point out, we'll have a link. You'll be able to watch this whole thing on YouTube. That the official Doctor Who YouTube channel has the whole thing, so that's really good. So a little bit of time travel prophecy. The first time the Doctor was a woman was the 13th Doctor.
Yeah, and she was a blonde ditzy woman too. Yeah,
yeah. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. So the Doctor runs through all of these different incarnations. I just want to mention the actors up front that play the different incarnations. So it's Rowan Atkinson, who you know as the fantastic Mr. Bean. Rowan Atkinson is just always funny. Richard E. Grant
and as Blackadder.
And Blackadder. Yes, definitely. And Richard E. Grant, who will later show up, and we've recently talked about as the Great Intelligence.
And the Schalke Doctor.
Yes.
Oh,
yeah,
right.
Which we'll talk about that another time. But that was a web series that the BBC did between in the early 2000s. Yeah.
It was the plan to continue with the animated series with Richard Grant until the Russell T Davies TV revival came along.
Oh, okay. Then briefly, Jim Broadbent, who's a funny comedic actor, and Hugh Grant until we get Joanna Lumley. So we'll talk about each of them as we go along. And then Jonathan Pryce plays the Master. And Jonathan Pryce is just fantastic.
Mm-hmm. He's really good as the Master.
Yeah. I mean, American audiences will recognize him, not least because of the, what was it, Lexus ads or something that he used to do? He did these TV commercials. Yeah, some car ads. But he's a great actor. He looks perfect as the Master. He looks like several of the Masters that we've had before.
Kind of a combination really of Anthony Ainley and Robert Delgado.
Yes. Yeah, there is a striking resemblance. And he chews the scenery just perfectly. He's so great.
In fact, he's the first character we meet in this because the opening scene is on his TARDIS.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a fan set that some fans had made for their fan video, but it's the Doctor's TARDIS, but they've colored it green with lighting, so it fits the Master, and he's cackling about his evil. He's watching the Doctor on the monitor, and the Doctor's back is turned to him, and he's cackling about how he's going to have his revenge on the Doctor, and he's talking about his plans, and then he hears the Doctor's voice saying, if you're going to talk about your plans, you should shut off the microphone.
Yeah.
and he's enraged, and he switches off the screen and continues to rant about his coming plans for the Doctor. And the Doctor says, well, now you've turned the camera off, but not the speaker.
Yeah. I was wondering where the set came from because the back of the set, the main part of the set looked like the 7th Doctor's TARDIS, 5th through 7th Doctor's TARDIS. But the console was the 1st Doctor console, which we know hadn't been recreated yet by the BBC. So I was wondering where it came from. It was interesting that was a fan set. Yes. That's cool.
I think Star Trek has done that once before with the fan set of the original Enterprise bridge. Yep. So yeah, that's fun. So the Doctor says, well, if you really want to get me, you have to come to the planet Terceris, as you mentioned. And so he tells Emma as they arrive, like the Tercerons are an extinct race. He says the Tercerons are a kindly, peace-loving race, but shunned and abhorred by the universe due to their communicating solely through precise modulated gastric emissions. And they destroyed. Yeah, flatulence. They destroyed themselves after discovering fire. I'm sorry, the 12-year-old boy in me finds that hilarious.
It is. I'm not at all a fan of fart jokes, but they destroyed themselves after discovering fire is one of the funniest I've ever heard. And also, fortunately, they never use the soundtrack to convey the sound of this.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Planet of the bottom burps, as Emma calls it. So, so the Master arrives, and we have like this timey-wimey thing where he says, "Oh, because you told me you were coming here at this time, I travel back in time and bribe that architect is probably very wealthy by the end of his life
and well-fed too.
Well-fed, yes, due to all of the bribes from the Doctor and the Master. And so we have a series of, traps that the master has set, and then ways that the doctors got out of it. And so the first one was the
spikes.
The spikes of doom, which the doctor replaced with the sofa of reasonable comfort.
Which this has got to be a Monty Python callback, because there's the Spanish Inquisition
the comfy
one.
chair.
Yeah, put her in the comfy chair.
And there's a couple of those things there, so I thought that was good. And then the doctor kind of, when he goes into talking about wanting to retire, he saved the universe, every planet in the universe at least 27 times, and he wants to retire and settle down. He's grown weary of various things, including those endless gravel quarries.
Yep.
There's so many great callbacks to a lot of the tropes and things of the classic Who.
Every time you saw a rocky planet in classic Who, it was a gravel quarry somewhere in Britain.
Yeah.
Right.
He also describes his new companion, Emma, that he's going to marry, as more exciting than escaping up an elevator shaft.
Yes.
Or a ventilator shaft. I'm sorry.
Yeah, ventilation shaft. Yeah, that was really good.
They also, in running through Castle Tursurus to escape the Master and the Daleks, it's very obvious they've just run through the same set of corridors, the same set 3 times.
Yep.
And Emma hangs a lantern on it and says, "These corridors all look the same."
Right.
And that's because on the TV show, they have a limited budget and they only have enough for one set to build one set of corridors. So people have to run through the same thing multiple times.
Just different angles.
And they do that on other shows like Stargate and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
There's like one set for the Goa'uld Hatak motherships, and they run through those corridors multiple times in the same sequence.
Well, and Star Trek would do that too. They would build like one set of corridors for their ship, the Enterprise or Voyager, and then just film it from different angles to make it look different.
Yeah,
maybe even light it just a tiny bit different. But yeah, clever. So you mentioned the Master keeps falling in the sewers, and every time he comes out 300 years later, he looks 300 years older. And so he's at one point he's got a walker and a long beard. And he's like, "Hey, wait up for me," he says to the Daleks that are chasing the Doctor. He gets bumped into at one point he rushes the Doctor to strangle him, and the Doctor steps aside and he falls into the pit.
Well, first he set up the trap for the Doctor right where the Doctor's standing was where the trapdoor was supposed to be. But then the Doctor bribed the architect so that it was right where the Master was. And then the second time was bumped in, or he rushed the Doctor, and the third time he was bumped in.
And it's funny because they keep telling each other, "I went back and told that," like before actually, triggering the trap, they tell the other one what they've done so that the other one now knows and in the future can go back and bribe the architect to change it. Right. Like, which is kind of funny. So, although that creates a series of time paradoxes, because at least the Doctor would have at least had to have fallen in once in order to know about the trap.
Well, unless he was having dinner with the architect and said, "So, what else have you been asked to do?"
Oh, that's true. That's true. Yeah. So not necessarily a paradox.
So one of the paradoxical things about this is that it plays with canonicity, because this is clearly a non-canonical tale, but that hasn't stopped a lot of the themes in it from later being explored in New Who. Now, this came out in 1999, which was 6 years before New Who. But lots of the themes from this have come up in New Who, and not played for comedy necessarily, but Stephen Moffat was really anticipating the direction Doctor Who would go. And some of the things may be deliberate callbacks to this, like the family Slitheen, where the gas exchange suits that cause them to make farty noises.
That's true.
And they're not using that to communicate like the Tursurans did, but it is possibly something that was a nod to this. My favorite, though, has to be in a Big Finish Missy adventure that unambiguously has a deliberate callback to this. Now, planet Tursurus is in the established Doctor Who universe. In fact, in Tom Baker's time, the final degenerated incarnation of Roger Delgado's Master was found on planet Tursurus. And so I don't think we've ever seen Tursurus, but it has been mentioned in the main canonical universe. But in there's an episode of Missy, I believe it's in Missy Volume 2. It's an episode called the Bechdel test, where Missy refers to this. So for listeners who may not be aware, the Bechdel test is a test. It was proposed by a woman named Bechdel. I don't remember her first name. But basically, a movie or TV show, it's a test for how much agency women have in a story. And the film or episode passes the Bechdel test if it has a scene between two women and they talk about something other than a man.
Okay.
And so it's like, okay, in this, women have at least some minimal agency if they can talk to each other about something other than a man. And so this episode of Missy, the Bechdel test, has two women, Missy and River Song.
Okay.
And they're both imprisoned, and the question is, can they are they going to talk about anything other than the doctor, who they both have passionate feelings concerning of one sort or another.
Yes.
And oh, it's so funny. And River gets some great lines, at first pretending to not recognize who Missy is. And it's like, oh, and then she seems to realize, and it's, oh, you must be, and she keeps naming every Time Lord other than the Master. So it's like, you're Susan, or you're the meddling monk, or, But of course she knows it's the Master all along.
Right.
But then later, as they're talking about how to escape, one of their options is to crawl through some sewers. And Missy says, oh, no, I had quite enough of that back on Tursurus.
Oh, good. That's awesome. So the Master, by the way, in allying himself with the Daleks, has had some augmentations. First, he had a hand replaced with the plunger tool, at which Emma says, well, what's that good for? And he kind of looks at it and goes, and you realize he has no idea what it's for. Just like fans have always wondered, what is the plunger good for? And then later on, he gets
his hand back.
He gets his hand back. He also gets Dalek bumps, which they play up for breast augmentation surgery, and they kind of mock him for that.
Although he insists they are etheric beam locators that will allow him to locate etheric beams as at like 20 light years or something.
Yeah. Right.
And just like I'm not a fan of fart jokes, I'm not a fan of boob jokes.
Yeah.
But when Joanna Lumley regenerates as the 13th Doctor, she looks down and says, I've got etheric beam locators.
Yeah. Right. That was pretty good. So they've been captured by the Daleks, taken to their ship, and they've been tied up. And Emma observes that despite the Daleks constantly saying exterminate, they tend to capture the Doctor instead of just killing him like they promised to do, which is another fun observation.
Well, then they have the trope of she asks a question and the Doctor says, I'll tell you later, which of course, that's always the companions can be told later and the Doctor never does.
Yes, or at least not on screen. Yes.
Yeah.
And they use that repeatedly. The kind of capping example of that is as Richard Grant's 12th Doctor has been fatally deaded by the Zectronic energy beam with no hope of regeneration. Emma asks him a question and he says, I'll explain.
Yes.
And then he ostensibly permanently dies.
Yes. So before that, at one point, the Emma and the 9th Doctor, apparently, they learn that the Daleks plan to betray the Master, and so they need to communicate this to the Master. But they can't do it out loud. And because the reason the Daleks are allied with the Master right now is because they have no noses, the Doctor communicates this to the Master in Tursurin, which
because he and the Master have both had dinner with the Architect and thus and bribed him and know how to speak Tursurin.
Yes, fluently. So you have a funny, somewhat exchange of the Master
that's an
sniffing.
Unfortunate choice of words.
Yeah, that's true. But you have the master sniffing the air and translating out loud, and then a few funny things ensue in there.
And fortunately, we never hear any of the farting.
No.
So
Yes.
it's too subtle for that, which is good. That helps this work a lot better.
Yes.
But like at one moment, towards the end of the doctor misspells a couple of words. Like
Right.
you face imminent dupe.
Yes.
Imminent dupe instead of doom.
Yeah.
And then later it just degenerates into a string of nonsense. And Emma says, "Sorry, that was me."
Right. Well, I think it's funnier without the noises. I think it
much.
Yeah, it makes it funnier.
Because you see the master kind of sniffing and going, wait, you're saying that, you know.
Right. So the doctor has to fix the Zartron, or not Zactronic beam emitter, because it's going to implode and explode at the same time. And so while he's fixing it, he gets hurt and turns into regenerates into Richard E. Grant, which Emma does not object to.
Right. He explains, and this is her first encounter with the concept of regeneration, apparently. And he explains, it's still me in here, but can you love me in my new body? And Richard Grant, I guess, is considered, or at this point in his career, was considered really handsome. In fact, one of the first things he does is talk about how he is lick the mirror handsome, and he then licks a mirror.
Yuck.
And he says to Emma, "Can you still love me in my new body?" And she says, "I don't think I'll have too much trouble with that."
Right. But then he gets zapped again, quite quickly, and becomes a very shy Jim Broadbent who can't even look at a woman. Like, oh my, I can't look at a woman. And even when the master,
and that was kind of his thing. That was Jim Broadbent's thing. Was kind of the the shy, kick the dirt. I can't look you in the eye kind of personality. So that was kind of his comedy routine.
Okay. Even when the master shows up with his Dalek bumps, he's like, "Oh, I can't even look at you." So
can't look at a girl. He doesn't look up to see the face to see he's got a goatee.
Yeah, right. But then he's quickly blasted and becomes Hugh Grant, which again Emma is not opposed to.
Yeah. And it turns out that these two regenerations, as he's trying to fix the energy device to keep it from exploding and imploding, are caused by the fact he didn't unplug it first. So he got shocked to death twice.
Right. Yeah. And it's great that they got all of these actors to come in and do like this Doctor Who farce. I mean, it's really fun to have these well-known actors coming in and taking part in this. It's really, it makes it even better because they're so well-known. And then, as you mentioned, and then the Hugh Grant Doctor, eventually he gets blasted, dies before being able to reveal how to go on. The universe can go on without him. Then we get to Joanna Lumley, and so he runs through. What's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, like 3 regenerations in like the space of 4 of them in the space of like 3 minutes. It's like,
and they even call that out. It's like I've wasted 3 bodies in a minute,
just under a minute. Yeah,
it's a lot of Artron energy. So, and after and you mentioned how the Master had vowed to renounce evil in his honor, and so had the Daleks. And then we end with the Master and the Doctor going off arm in arm together.
After Joanna Lumley after she's been told that the wedding is off, she's like talking to Emma. It's like, oh, well, that won't stop us from exploring the universe and having adventures and stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we've got a course there for an imaginary future to this.
That's true.
And then she notices how much more attractive she finds the Master than she used to, and he's good now, so that's not a problem.
Yeah.
And she says, "Why do they call you the Master?" And and he just kind of suggestively looks at her and then starts laughing, and that's as they go strolling off, and that's our exit.
Right. Yeah, we could
suggesting because of his prowess in the bedroom.
Yes. So, and that's where it ends. So a very quick 20 minutes, but kind of fun. So, any last notes on this before we wrap up, Father Cory?
The voice of the Daleks was by Roy Skelton, who had been one of the voices of the Daleks going all the way back to Evil of the Daleks, and this is the last time he voiced them. So going all the way back to the first Second Doctor episode, He's been one of the voices of Daleks, but he's been many other voices throughout classic Who. So because the voice sound familiar, it's like, no, I know that's not Nicholas Briggs, the one who does it
Briggs.
now. But it's very familiar. And of course, like I said, it's somebody who's been doing it for most of the time, run of the Daleks through classic Who. Now, if Emma, of course, Joanna Lumley is familiar, not just as a Bond girl, because she was in Bond way back when, but she was also in Absolutely Fabulous with Julia Swahala, who was Emma. So the two of them had worked together before this.
Oh, I've seen a few episodes. It was never my thing.
Emma was kind of the nerdy.
Was she? She wasn't Safi, was she?
The girl.
I mean, so you had the two kind of debauched adult female characters, one of whom was Joanna Lumley.
Yep.
And then the other one, who wasn't Joanna Lumley, had a daughter.
She was
who,
the daughter.
even though she had been raised by a hippie mother, was a totally straight daughter.
Yeah.
It was kind of like, what was it? The American sitcom, was it Growing Pains or something, where Michael J. Fox was like the conservative kid of hippie parents.
Yep.
And that's sort of what the daughter was in this. The daughter was named Saffron, but she didn't like such a hippie name, so she called herself Safi.
Yeah, that was Julia Swahala.
I didn't recognize her.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Well, that shows you how little I've seen of Absolutely Fabulous.
Well, she was younger, but also would have like kind of, nerdy Buddy Holly type glasses.
Mm-hmm.
So
and she was played as a nerdy straight character.
Yep.
Although because she had a hippie mother who she totally did not approve of her mother's lifestyle.
Yep.
She did have certain knowledge. I remember seeing part of an episode where one of Safi's college friends was trying to make a joint. And was having trouble, and Safi, even though she doesn't use dope, is like, oh, for heaven's sake, your paper's too light and your roach is too tight.
Yeah.
your paper's too loose and your roach is too tight.
Funny.
Yeah, I've only seen a few episodes of that as well, and I enjoyed it. I just never sat down and actually watched it. But and of course, as Jimmy mentioned, we do have elements that we do see later in New Who. We complain about Doctor's my boyfriend. Well, here we've got Doctor's my fiance, and Rose was not.
He marries River Song.
Yeah,
right.
And Rose is not the second companion to be kissed. Emma was.
That's right. There's a kiss. So, what? You said Joanna Lumley was a Bond girl. Do you remember what Bond movie she was in?
I don't remember what movie she wasn't like the one that Bond went after. She was like
She just was one of the female.
One of the females of the
in the movie.
Bad guys,
in the very first one, On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Okay, I just found it. So, wow.
Yep.
All right. Jimmy, any final notes?
So this is not the only time they've done Doctor Who themed comedy benefit specials. Another one, which is by Stephen Moffat, is Time Crash, which is also very well done. And then there's one that is vastly less fondly remembered, even though it starred many more people who were from the actual show. I mean, it had multiple actual doctors in it, and it's called Dimensions in Time. It is a comedy benefit crossover special with the British soap opera EastEnders. And wow, is it terrible!
I didn't get very far in that when I watched it.
It's got John Pertwee. It's got, as the characters, it has the third Doctor. It's got the fifth Doctor. It's got the sixth and the seventh Doctor. It's got the Ronnie. It's got Sarah Jane Smith. It's got other companions, and it's just terrible.
Yep.
And it's clear. Stephen Moffat, when he wants to, is a good writer, and he really knows the show. And he's able to use knowing the show to make it work comedically in a way that someone who's not as much of a fan of the show or not as talented a writer is not able to. Because if you watch Dimensions in Time and watch either of the Stephen Moffat penned ones, it's just night and day different how much better they are.
Oh, yeah. So I know we talked about Time Crash at some point, but I don't remember. We didn't do it in a separate episode.
No, because it's like 5 minutes long.
Yeah, I think we did it as part of. I can't remember if it was part of the spaceship Titanic one or the episode that followed it.
Right, because it was immediately around one of those. That's right. We did it as part of that. So yeah, if you want to go check those out, the
Voyage of the Damned was the one that was the special that Time Crash led into.
Yep.
Right. All right. I think that should do it for this quick. I thought it would be quicker, but it's apparently funny enough to keep talking about it. So we want to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the Secrets of Doctor Who, and their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Doctor Who and all the shows at StarQuest. You can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. So we'd love to get your feedback. You can send that to doctorwho@sqpn.com. And next Wednesday, when the next episode comes out, we'll be talking about the second Doctor story, The Web of Fear. Until then, Father Cory Sticha, thank you for joining me and sharing the Secrets of Doctor Who.
Thank you, Dom.
Jimmy Akin, thank you as well.
Thank you. Happy April Fool's Day, and don't forget to listen to Mysterious World.
That's right. You definitely want to listen to that today. And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Doctor Who on StarQuest. And remember, it will be the deadly vengeance of deadly revenge. Mwahahaha.